Parshas Toldos, Tavshin Ayin Hey. You know, I was just mentioning to the crowd here that every week when we come into this building to do the shiur, this building looks more and more beautiful. And the amount of work that goes into just making it comfortable and making it balabatish and making it beautiful for people that stay here. Happened to have had someone in our own family that stayed here last Shabbos, and the service and the dedication of the people that run Bikkur Cholim of Lakewood is truly tremendous. Very, very worthwhile organization to support. I finally actually got to see firsthand some of the things that they do over Shabbos in this house, in the hospital, in different places around town, just taking care of people that are in need. And obviously, as you could probably tell, we walked in tonight and the tables are already in the midst of being set for Shabbos. And actually quite comfortable, quite beautiful being here in this room. And kudos to all the Bikkur Cholim employees, members, volunteers. Downstairs right now is full of dozens of young women that are putting together meals that go out to so many hospitals in the area. It's truly, truly amazing, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should pay them back big time. They should really be paid back for the tremendous chesed that they're doing. Pasuk in this week's parsha: Vayizra Yitzchak ba'aretz hahi, vayimtza b'shana hahi mea she'arim. There, in this pasuk is where the famous street in Yerushalayim comes from, that Yitzchak planted in that land, and the land gave him forth 100-fold. Vayivorcheu Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him a bracha. And then the pasuk says, Vayigdal ha'ish, Vayelech haloich v'godol, that the Yitzchak, he grew and he became great, ad ki godal ma'oid, until he became very, very great. So the Nesivos Shalom says we need to try to understand what this Gedula is. When the pasuk, you know, there are so many things in this week's parsha. As you read, you get to Sheni, to Shlishi, to Revi. There are so many things that I wanted to speak about, and there are so many things that lessons for life in this week's parsha. So again, I just want to say we're trying to pick out one or two things, and we're actually going to split the shiur and talk about two different things this week. But what is this Gedula? What is the pasuk referring to when the pasuk says that Yitzchak became big, he became very great? So Nesivos Shalom answers that of course it is not referring to what the Torah continues and says after that. The Torah says that Yitzchak had a lot of miknei tzoin, umiknei vokar, that he had a lot of assets. Nesivos Shalom says a very, very important thing right there. He says, you know what? The Torah does not consider a lot of assets or wealth as gedula. I want to talk about somebody who's great, somebody who became great. The Torah doesn't call somebody who has acquired a lot of assets, someone that's wealthy, that's not called gedula, that's not called great. The entire relating of the wealth of Yitzchak Avinu was for one reason only, and that's for the pasuk that comes a little bit later. The pasuk says, "Vayikanu oisai plishtim," that the plishtim were jealous, and from there we go into a whole story about what happened with Yitzchak Avinu and the plishtim. But for itself, the word gedula, to say that someone became great, says in Nesivos Shalom, that we never refer to somebody who's wealthy, to someone who has assets. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you the assets, so you should do chesed with it. You're a temporary treasurer. Like the Bali Musar will say, a person who has money is a temporary treasure. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to see what you're going to do with it and how you're going to go about it. But we don't call a person who has many assets is not called gedula. So the Shiur Shalom brings from the Torah Sa'avois, and he says this pasuk is talking about, the pasuk that we speak about, Yitzchak Avinu here, is talking about Avodas Hashem. And by Yizra Yitzchak means that Yitzchak seeded, he planted. What did he do? He planted and he toiled, what? In Avodas Hashem. That's what he planted. We're not referring here to monetary assets. And where was it? The pasuk says, Ba'aretz hahi. What does Ba'aretz hahi mean? Like Rashi, if you look at Rashi, Rashi brings down right here, right away, Rashi says, Ba'aretz kosher, uv'shana kosher. It was a tough land to plant, and it was also a tough year for planting. How do we explain that in Avodas Hashem? Yitzchak, by years of Yitzchak seeded, he planted, he toiled in Avodas Hashem, but what happened? It was a tough land. Yitzchak lived between Rishoyim, and it was extremely, extremely hard for him. So how do we teach the rest of the pasuk? It says in Nesivos Shalom. Vayimtza, what did he find? Mei Sha'arim. You know what Yitzchak Avinu found? When he toiled and he worked in Avodas Hashem in a land that was hard to do Avodas Hashem, Yitzchak found 100 different ways to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is the way life works, says in Nesivos Shalom. If it's difficult and you're in a tough place, you're in a tough place in your life, and you're living in a tough time, if you work through it, if you do the right avodah, if you work through it, dafka, through the work, through tough times, that's where you're going to uncover the ways to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we see it in the pasuk, that because Yitzchak worked, and because he worked in a tough land, in a tough place, because he did all of that, and he did his Avodas Hashem, when he lived around people that were not conducive for Avodas Hashem, the pasuk says, Vayigdal ha'ish, that Yitzchak became great, and Vayivorchehu Hashem. That's how you zerch to bracha. The tougher it is, if it's tough on all the fronts, and a person works on it, then you can reach very, very far. Meir Sha'arim. He was zoicha that whatever work he put in, he was paid back 100-fold. And that is the first lesson in this week's Parsha that I wanted to give over from the Nesivos Shalom. And there's another thing that I was actually looking for, because there are so many questions on the later part of this week's Parsha. We've discussed it a number of times over the past few years, yet I still find it extremely, extremely difficult to understand. And that's the inyan and the Parsha of Yitzchak Avinu giving the brachas. Yitzchak Avinu giving the brachas to Yaakov, to Esav, the whole thing. There's one burning question that everybody has, I've had it, I'm sure everybody has this question, is why would Yitzchak Avinu want to even give a bracha to Esav? Yitzchak Avinu had to have known, I mean, obviously, it's very involved, the Parsha. There's a lot of nistar over here also, but Yitzchak Avinu had to have known that Yaakov was much greater than Esav. Avada Yitzchak Avinu had to have known that. So Nesivos Shalom brings down from the Sefer the Ermayim Chaim that it's true, of course. Of course, Yitzchak saw what was obvious, that Yaakov Avinu was greater than Esav. But why? So why did Yitzchak want to go ahead and give the big bracha? To give the main brachas, he wanted to go ahead and give it to Esav. Zok to Nesivos Shalom. He says that Yitzchak Avinu just thought like that. He thought like this: that if Yitzchak thought that if Esav came from very special parents, right? Yitzchak and Rivka were tremendously special parents, and Yitzchak thought that if Esav actually came from parents such as himself and Rivka, it must be that he has a very special tafkid in life. And that's what Yitzchak Avinu thought. And that tafkid, you know what that tafkid was? Yitzchak thought that the tafkid was to help and enable the Avodas Hashem and the mitzvahs of Yaakov Avinu. In order for Yaakov Avinu to be able to be Oisek B'Torah his entire life, without distractions, you know what Yaakov Avinu needed? Yaakov Avinu needed an Esav to be materialistically successful. He needed to have an Esav. Who's going to support Yaakov Avinu? You can't rely on a miracle. Yaakov Avinu is going to dedicate his whole life to Avodas Hashem. Yitzchak Avinu understood that in order that Yaakov should be supported his entire life, he needs to make Esav successful in material ways. So Esav could support Yaakov Avinu. And that was taka the reason, thought Yitzchak, that Esav was so successful as a hunter. You know why he was so successful? Because he was having siyata d'shmaya in that. Because he was going to support Yaakov Avinu. To fulfill, that was his tafkid in life. And Yitzchak Avinu saw that. He saw Esav being successful. And that the whole purpose of the brachas, was to promote Torah and promote the Avodas Hashem of Yaakov. And the whole way that was going to come about was through Esav supporting Yaakov. So Yitzchak wanted to give a bracha to Esav first. You know why? Because he wanted to make all the arrangements first. If Yaakov is going to dedicate his life to Torah and Avodah, he's going to dedicate his life to Avodas Hashem, that Yitzchak wanted to make sure that Yaakov Avinu was set up, that this was all taken care of first. And that's how Yaakov Avinu ended up with the bracha of V'yiten l'cha halekim mitala shamayim mishmanei haaretz. We've asked this over the past few years also. Brachas of Gashmias. Yaakov Avinu, when Yitzchak Avinu gave the brachas to Yaakov Avinu, he gave him brachas of Gashmias. You know why Yaakov Avinu ended up with those brachas? He ended up with those brachas because these brachas were supposed to be full of Gashmias. And Esav was supposed to get these brachas of Gashmias in order to support Yaakov Avinu. But there is a question, because the pasuk continues, and this is an unbelievable Nesivos Shalom. This is an unbelievable thought, and if you think about it, it's mamish a pella. The question is that Yitzchak Avinu also gave a bracha to Yaakov that was supposed to go to Esav. The bracha was Hevei Gevir La'achecha V'yishtachavu L'cha B'nei Imecha, that you are going to rule over your brother at all times. Now Yitzchak, like we said before, Yitzchak had to have known that Yaakov Avinu was greater. Why would he give a bracha? One thing, you want to give Esav money that he should support Yaakov, it's one thing. But give him a bracha that he should be over Yaakov Avinu. He should rule over him. That requires a little bit explanation. You know why he got this bracha? And Nesivos Shalom answered that Yitzchak Avinu knew what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu at the bris bein Absarim. And listen to this beautiful pshat. Avraham Avinu was told, Ki ger yihiyeh zaracha be'eretz lo lohem. It's a remez to Golus. Your children are going to go into Golus. And you know what Yitzchak Avinu wanted? Yitzchak Avinu knew that Klal Yisrael was going to go into Golus. And Yitzchak Avinu wanted that if Klal Yisrael, if the Yidden are going to go into Golus, you know what? Let it be under Esav. Let it be under Esav, who at the end of the day, Esav is still a brother. And maybe he'll treat Klal Yisrael better than Yishmael. And we got to see this week the Achzorius and the animalistic nature of the Bnei Yishmael. But Yitzchak Avinu said that if they're going to be in Golus, let it be under Esav. Maybe Esav will have more rachmanis. Therefore, Hevei Gevir Le'achecha. He just didn't know the real riches of Esav at that point. If he would have maybe known the real riches of Esav, and Esav hadn't hidden it from his father, maybe then he wouldn't have let him rule over. But V'yiten L'cha, the bracha was given to Yaakov Avinu. That's when Klal Yisrael is doing the Ratzon of Hashem. And the Hevei Gevir La'achecha was given to Esav. The Hevei Gevir was a bracha that was given to him. Why? Because when it comes in the Golus, maybe Esav would have Rachmanis. Yitzchak Avinu was thinking that far down the line. Let's learn the lessons of this week's Parsha. The lessons of what we really want from the brachas. And the lessons we learn from Yitzchak Avinu, from Yaakov Avinu. The lesson we said at the beginning of when it's difficult and when it's tough, that's when you really grow. That's when you take your big leaps in Avodas Hashem. That's what it means, Gedula. Gedula means when you work and you work when it's tough. That's how you grow to be great. Let's learn the lessons of the Parsha, and hopefully we can all be Zoicha to all the brachas in this week's Parsha too.